Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday to you. Wiley here checking in live with the Wiley Report, a conference edition. I am here in San Jose, California. This is my first time in San Jose. I've been to San Diego um, at least 2, 3 times in La Jolla, but I've never and been in the passing through LA through the airport. But this is my first time in San Jose, and I am here. I don't know if you can see it, it probably looks backwards, but it is the 48th annual conference for the National Council for Black Studies. The theme this year is Our Afro Future in the Crosshairs, Black Studies in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, Big Tech, and the Cultural Wars. Black Studies in the Age of Artificial Intelligence, Big Tech, and the Cultural Wars. And so it was the conference actually that um, one of my committee members, Dr. Gibson, had mentioned this past fall. So I figured that I would check it out because my area, as you know, is race, digital studies, intersectionality. So it started today and it runs through Saturday. They also gave this. I don't know if you can see it, my cameras. I don't know. Yes, yeah, there you go. They gave this. I don't know how black you can be. The fan, the fan, the fan. Cool. Isn't that neat? I guess for me, I think about like the fan in the sense of childhood memories about how much was on a fan. Sometimes it was business, sometimes it was institutions, sometimes it was messages, sometimes it was church. But just the fan of God talk. I'm like that was in the registration package. So they gave this in the book, and then they gave you your badge. And today they had sessions. So the opening session, like I said, I've never been here before. So I had talked to a mentor, Dr. Lacey, because I'm in this group called Qualitative Scholars. It's basically a group that they encourage you to do the scholar basics, which is basically drink your water, you focus your mind, writing one shitty paragraph at a time. And Dr. Lacey had said to me that she had heard that it was, the Blackly Black conference. It is. It is. We meditated this morning. We did. We meditated. We called the ancestors forward, which was very, interesting because people started speaking out loud names of ancestors. For me, I thought of my grandmother, or, Irma Jean Hart. I thought of my great grandmother, Maddie Tennyson. I thought of my father, Reverend Willie James, Dr. Reverend Reverend Dr. Willie James Wiley, and just who's in the room with you. I thought of all of the queer and trans people that have gone before me and how amazing it is to come in this space and to just be here, and to also present because this is the first time I'm presenting in a conference. It's also people that are professors, faculty, researchers, vendors, students at a wide array of institutions. I want to say they said about 100 to 200 institutions were represented at the conference this year. And so it was a great time. It was a great time that we had. And I'll share my screen to show you what I presented on. There you go. So I present on this, Is America a Racist Country? A Selected Analysis of Online Comments. So basically it was a study that I've been working on. Is in my narrative where I analyzed 80 comments from Breitbart and from the Washington Post, looking at how individuals discuss race online. It was a great conversation. I had a good time talking about it. I got questions about my next steps. I also got people that said to me, congratulations. They really liked the talk and they really found it, helpful and like the things that I said, which was interesting and good to me because I had talking points. But then when I got to slide 9, Jesus started talking. I don't know what I said. Anyway, don't know. I just gave them the Wiley perspective. Who knows? I just remember going, "That's good, bro. That's good." Yes. No, I was just talking about, my thoughts about, because the work I was grounding it in theoretical frameworks of critical race theory, deliberative democracy, and critical techno discourse analysis, also known as CTDA. So I defined what that was and talked about my own implications in as it related to looking at online comments and its connections to critical race theory and deliberative democracy. And that's mostly because when I think about critical race theory, I just find it problematic that when we think about Black life and liberation, that we often, when you look at people's, you know, I, when we look at people's comments, I think they're repeating ideologies that exist somewhere. And it is problematic when you deny people's existence. You deny the problems that they have experienced. The fact that democracy for them could be different than democracy is for you. Or when we think about what the definition of deliberative democracy is about, allowing people to have space to have differences and to express all their opinions and resolve conflict. Yet when we look at race and democracy, it remains one of the things that is still unresolved. And I think part of that is because we keep denying racial disparities exist. We keep denying that for Black people. So when Black people tell you, my experience of America is racist, people start talking about all the ways that America is wonderful. And that is not to say that America is not wonderful. It is just that America for you and your personhood, your identity, your expression, who you represent, your representation has been different. It does not mean that America is terrible. It just means America has some things that it needs to fix and it needs to resolve. Uh, and I don't know when it will. And I don't know if that's my job to solve that or fix that. I'm just out here, telling you what's happening in these information streets because information science is about how information, text, print, digital is used, is created, is stored, is analyzed. And I'm interested in ideology and representation and the role of meaning making, specifically when we look at how people discuss race. Because I want to build y'all a map so we can look at all these ideologies and see how they repeat. There you go. So today, if you will, I went the first place that I went, because where I went, you get to go. Okay. So I went, like I said, we had the meditation this morning and then we sang lift every voice and sing. I haven't been to a conference and I went to an historically Black college. We didn't sing lift every voice and sing in a conference. We might have sang it, for programs and things like that, but they sang it in the opening session. I was like, what is this? It felt like stepping off in the Black universe. It really did. It's the people that are dressed, casual. You see sneakers, you see suits, you see the amazing hats that we wear. You see a lot of African print. My sister, my brother, you see, I'm not criticizing. I'm just telling you what's happening because you get to go too. So the first thing that I attended this morning at the opening session, I got the book because I wanted to make sure I didn't miss it. Hang on. Yes, I went to AI and the future of the discipline. So it was theory, practice, and struggle. So you had AI and the threat to the African American family ecology. You had deep fakes, the internet, AI, and the attack on authentic African diasporic identity. And you had the cultural ethics of artificial intelligence and Afro-tourism. If you ask me which presentation I liked the most, it would be the cultural ethics of artificial intelligence and Afrofuturism. I saw him just a few minutes ago at the reception. I got some questions that I wanted to ask him about implications in social justice. Uh, it wasn't that the AI threat to the African American family ecology was terrible. It's just oftentimes when you hear nuclear family, what I hear is you get ready to talk about heteronormativity. I try to tune out and go, not tune out, I try to give people the benefit of the doubt and go, when they talk about the family, they're talking about queer and trans people and non binary people. But sometimes when I hear them, I'm like, I don't hear that. So I'd be like, no. So there's that. So, but he did it. The professor did have um, a great talk. I was just, and I did ask him, a question about because he's talking about identity, and I asked him, what was he, what did he mean when he said healthy identity? Anyway, still good people, good people. Then when you had the deep fakes in the internet, AI, and the attack on authentic African diasporic identity, he had images that he was talking about. Oh, it's not these images was wrong. I just when it gave a lot of respectability politics, and he was talking about Martin Luther King, and I know people have a way that they envision Martin Luther King, and that Martin Luther King is only a certain way. And so when I asked him a question about healthy identity, or let me go to the question that I asked him, because I'm trying to learn how to ask these questions to people, because I'm growing as an information scientist in training. The question that I was asking him, I wrote it down, was what would be needed to create positive imagery as it relates to algorithm uh, design or training data. And he was talking about authenticity. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not. I'm just saying when I think about the overall experience of the conference, I was telling some colleagues of mine that are doctoral students. I think information science, we got to come in on this conversation too, because I think they go together. They go like this. And oftentimes when I think about the field, I think that you have fields that are having conversations about these issues. And it's not that they are incorrect or wrong. I just think you need the whole picture. So when you talk about deepfakes in the internet, you also have to talk about the design. You also have to talk about the ideologies that create that. You also have to talk about rhetoric. You have to have those conversations together. Otherwise, you're just talking about image and how the image is wrong. And while that's true, why is it wrong? Where does that come from? What will we be doing to rectify that? Will we be rectifying that? Those are just questions that come to mind. They didn't serve lunch, but they had a great place across the street called Grace Deli. It reminds you of the Atlanta Bread Company. If y'all ever ate there, those kind of sandwiches. I had a turkey, bacon, avocado. Come here, avocado. I did not know avocado tasted that amazing. Oh my God, I've had avocado on everything. Anyway, so my panel was on race, youth, and relationship in the ages of social media. They had a great conversation by Alexia Simpson, who was talking about damaged goods, the negative effects of social media on Black male and female relationships. And then you had Dr. Michaela Bethune from, we're just going to say Maryland, because I'm not going to butcher. Is it Loyola? I don't know how to say it. But anyway, Marymount. Go with that. Her talk was wonderful because she was talking about the Black Youth Futures, a meditated media model of Black youth sexual development. And then there was me, which I showed you what I'm talking about. So I went to lunch. The talks were good because Alexia was talking about images. Is it Blueface and Krishan? That was an interesting conversation to think about relationships and what it is that people, uh, younger people, think about uh, good relationship models and toxicity. And then with Black Youth Futures, you were talking about youth and their exposure, connection to sexualization and technology. So that was really interesting conversation. But at least with Dr. Michaela, she brought in the conversation that when you're talking about young kids, you are talking about queer non-binary kids too. Yeah, because that's a challenge. That's a challenge that I always feel when you come in Black diasporic spaces is, will you be talking about queerness and transness? I know you said it's in your call for proposals, and maybe, hey, I just wasn't in the room where it was being discussed, but I'm always like, you gotta have that conversation because I lose count. I often have said this many times that I lose count where I have been in spaces where LGBTQ plus Chris was totally okay, but Black Chris, not so much, which blew my mind because you may or may not know LGBTQ plus. You might not know that about my identity when you see me, but this melanin speaks for me in rooms that I have entered and have yet to enter and will enter. So it's really interesting when we think about this and the things it is that we study, because when Professor Joshua Myers talks about the subject of the studies, the subject of my life. When I read that, there's no way that I cannot do these studies and talking about ideological representation and not talk about queerness and transness and its connections and the role of blackness. And what does it mean when blackness is seen as a problem ideologically? In as much as we know that it's seen as a problem technologically, because when they're creating training data, very rarely are they creating people that look like us. Or if they do, it's connections to criminalization and all other kinds of issues. So, just my thoughts. This afternoon, I went to a talk where they were doing internships. It was called We Are the Future African American Studies Through Student Perspectives. I went because they were supposed to have somebody there was talking about a library internship experience, and you know my day job is a librarian, so I was curious, but unfortunately she was not there. So I was like, oh, and I didn't want to leave because the people seemed really nice, and they didn't really have a lot of people in there, and I wanted to be supportive. So I sat there and listened to them talk about their experience volunteering at this center called Shape that's in Houston, Texas. And that made me think of like friends that are working in doing work as it relates to not just internship, but are really connected to community work and connecting it to the research they do around cultural heritage or the Black youth. I thought about at least two scholars that I know right now in defense phase and preliminary proposal that's totally what they do, which I thought they would have been excellent. And as I told friends of mine, I was like, man, I really wish more of us were here because I think you have to have conversations about information science in connection with Black studies in the age of artificial intelligence, big tech, and the cultural wars. Information science, informatics is completely a part of that discussion. And like I said, maybe it is going on, and I just was not in the rooms that they're talking about. Tomorrow they have some talks going on, but I'm gonna go in the afternoon because in the morning I gotta read and notate because I have 24 articles to 23 because I read one. I did read a book chapter last night. So I have 23 articles to notate for my uh, test. Some of these are things that I've read before, a while ago, and other these there's some things that I added to my reading list that I have never read. So I really need to get on that. And what else has happened? I had a conversation with my mom coming here, and it's dealing with those things when you deal with people pleasing, when you deal with the fact that sometimes people are disappointed because she, I guess, felt that I would come for spring break because next week, Monday, starts spring break for my university. And while it's true that it is spring break, I also work full time. So spring break for me just means I don't have classes. And it doesn't mean anything anyway because I'm not taking classes as it is. And as I was saying to her, I need to focus on taking my qualifying exam and, you know, finishing my notes. And she was like, you can't do that here. No, I can't, which that was a hard conversation because I was like, involving myself in caretaking doesn't seem like the right thing to do because that's what it is to go visit my parents, especially when my dad's gone. Um, one while she did have a good caregiver, but it seems like that caregiver that she had quit this past Friday. I don't know if that means she's still working off book because they did have that type of situation going on. And I know it's a lot being in your 70s, caring for a special needs child. I know with my brother, he's pretty much self sufficient. with the exception of getting himself out of bed, and brushing his teeth and taking a bath. It's like you can help him put, his clothes on, but it's not like he can verbalize and have conversation with you. And my father was pretty much one of the primary caregivers for my brother, and my mother, she hasn't been in that role in a while. And it isn't just because she had knee surgery and healing and recovery took a long time. I think just over time, my dad was doing all, and now it is her. And she's been recovering herself. And while she's better at moving around and everything, she uses the quad walker. She got a different walker because she had the one that was silver, but now she had one. It looks like a Hot Wheel. I ain't being disrespectful. It does. It's hot pink. I was like, what is happening? Anyway, so she has that, and she, moves around. She drives herself and stuff like that, and she can do everything for herself. But I can't imagine what it's like to be in your 70s and you're taking care of an adult, overseeing the care of an adult child. And while I understand that, and you know, I understand that's tough, I also realize the things I got to do for Chris. And I really want to pass my qualifying exam. I really want to finish notating for my test. And I don't feel like going to Georgia would allow me to do that because when I was there the second time this summer, it's kind of hard to do that when you're the Uber driver. You got to pick a person up and you got to get up at 7 in the morning and fix it. It's just you become a second parent, and that's not anything negative. I'm just saying I would rather not do that. And I have something that is coming up April 1st. If you were saying I was already passed through my qualifying exam, maybe I'd have a different outlook. But I also have the tendency to overgive. And while in my mind and my heart and my spirit, I definitely love my brother. He's always welcome to stay with me. He's my dude. I love him dearly. I just know that for me, I need to prepare for my test. And as I said to my mom, possibly, after I finish, I can see about my vacation time and coming to see you, in early May. But as I said that, that's not a lie. I just know I'm not staying there the whole time. I can't do it. My mom, she's a lot. I look at my keychain of my father and say all the time, your bay is something else. Because my mom and I, we have issues. We have issues with queerness and transness. We have issues with weight. I don't want to hear the comments that she made about me as it relates to my weight when I'm trying to help you. I just don't want to hear that. If it was just me taking care of my brother, that would be one thing. Or helping him, that's one thing. But her and her comments, and so it just makes me wonder, as I was reaching out and talking with my wife and another friend of mine, I was like, I don't know the long term um, care needs of that. I really don't. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm trying to finish my program. I'm working full time. I always knew Illinois was not necessarily a permanent forever home, but I also knew I wasn't planning to move to Augusta. No disrespect. Or as one for I met a colleague scholar that says his mother calls Augusta, LA, lovely Augusta. But anyway, so navigate life, because you navigating your dreams, navigating your pursuit, and life is different. But my dad gone, and yeah, I don't. There are a lot of answers I don't have, but I know the best thing to do is do what's best for me and what makes me feel good, which often is something that is new for me to stand in because I spent a lot of my time, a lot of my life living for other people or totally being invested in what they needed. And not to say that you shouldn't be invested in what other people need, especially if they're your people, your spouse, your relationship, your partner, your loved ones. Yet I realize it should not be at a detriment to yourself. You forget you and what it is that you need and who it is that you are and what it is that you're thinking about as you're thinking about what will create an environment of cultivation of support for you. And that's just not support that you need to get through a graduate program, support you need in your life. You ever think about that? How many times people ask me how can they be in support? And how no matter where it is that you are in your life or what it is that you're doing, you're always thinking about what it is that you need. And how sometimes many of us, me, you, us, are disconnected from that because you've been the person that is in support. You've been the person that is a strong person. You are the person that does show up for everybody else. So you're rarely thinking about how other people can show up for you because for most of the time, you're the people that show up for other people. I'm just saying. I don't know where you might find yourself today. Have I got any witnesses? Will there be one? I'm just saying, and that's not criticism. I'm just of anyone. That's just like something I've had to learn, something I had to think about. What is it that I need? What does support look like? And for me, how do you allow others to be in support of you and for you and alongside of you as you navigate the various things in your life? Do you have capacity? Do they have capacity? All important questions. So you have been listening to the Wiley Report, and guess what? I am Wiley. I have been sharing with you notes from the field as we attended our first conference. Well, not my first conference, but my first time attending the National Council for Black Studies. Would I come again? So far, yes, I will come again. I will come again. Excited to hear what they do and see the rest of their presentations Friday and Saturday. And that's all I got. I thank you for listening. You take care of yourself. And if no one has said, I care about you, I really want you to be okay. What can I do to be of support and really mean it and really listening to for you to tell me what it is you need and has capacity to provide support for you? Know that I do. Know that I love you. Know that I see you. Know that I care about you. And know that there is not a single solitary thing that you can do past, present, or future that will change it. All right. Thanks for listening to the Wiley Report. And who am I? Your favorite information scientist out here talking about race, digital studies, and intersectionality in these academic, internet, and YouTube streets. Peace. Take care.